The left told us that open borders were the compassionate thing to do. But compassion, void of law, is just chaos in a costume. And now that same chaos, it has turned deadly. A few days ago in Chicago, yes, the same Chicago that they can't seem to stop shooting themselves every weekend, a woman who had threatened federal agents online joined a mob to box them in with cars, and Shorty ended up. So today we have to talk about the violence being surged against ICE agents. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about its implications and why the people who want to help you are the ones that Black folks are actively fighting against. So let's talk about it. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. Don't want to waste a whole lot of time. We got to get straight into it because there's a story out of Chicago that perfectly exposes the moral rot of the American left and the righteous necessity of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership. So what happened? Well, over the weekend, Federal Border Patrol agents, they were conducting immigration enforcement operations in the Brighton Park neighborhood of Chicago. While attempting to make some arrests, which is their job, that's what they're supposed to do, they were suddenly boxed in. They were surrounded by multiple vehicles, and this woman, reportedly armed and known for issuing threats online against federal law enforcement, she joined the ambush. And it was at that moment that the agents feared for their lives and they fired, and they ended up killing her on the spot. This is a prime example of you play stupid games, you will win stupid prizes. So before the media mob starts crying crocodile tears, we need to be clear about a few things. These weren't some random bystanders or soccer moms who were just out for a stroll and caught a stray. That is not what this is. These were agitators, organized and hostile, using vehicles as weapons to obstruct federal officers in the lawful execution of their duties. They are ICE agents. This is what they're supposed to do. And if you believe or think that my words are hyperbole, you have not been paying attention, because the violence against federal agents, it is rising, and it is rising dramatically. And it's not just in Chicago. This is a national trend that we are noticing. We have seen ICE offices firebombed, agents doxxed online. We have heard open calls for violence circulating in progressive chat rooms. It is, you guys, it is getting ugly out there. And if this rate continues, more people are going to get hurt, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. I've heard Democrats asking, well, I don't understand why they have to wear masks. Well, for the people who wanted everybody to wear a mask during the pandemic, you should know and understand that the reason why these agents have to be masked is because of the rhetoric coming from the left, the threats that are coming from the left. These men and women who are sacrificing and actively working to carry out federal orders, which is deport these folks who came in without coming the right way, they are just doing their job. These people have to go. So they are wearing masks to protect themselves. And so Trump has the constitutional right and duty to enforce the law. So that is what's happening. Now, let's go ahead and settle this once and for all. President Donald J. Trump, you may not like it, but as the president, the commander-in-chief, he has every ounce of federal authority to deploy agents and to enforce immigration law. That is his jurisdiction. That is his authority. That is his job, period, full stop, end of story. Immigration and border enforcement, these are not optional suggestions. I know you're used to the geriatric patient in a suit that did the opposite and just opened the floodgates and let them all in. But immigration and border enforcement is the president's job. It is a constitutional mandate. Article 2, Section 3 specifically says that the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And so guess what? Deportation is the law. I know you don't like it. I know I told y'all Democrats are masters looking for slaves and Democrat voters are slaves looking for masters, but you cannot bypass the federal law because you need your new slave class. Detention is the law. Deportation is the law. Border enforcement is the law. And so what we're witnessing now, this is not some fascist takeover. They love that word, but I really don't think Democrats understand words or their definitions. This is not fascism. This is the federal government finally doing its job after years, 4 years of Democrat dereliction of duty. And so we need to rewind in case you forgot. This is Biden's mess. It wasn't Trump who created this chaos. It was Joe Biden. I told y'all, the geriatric patient in a suit. Joe Biden, the befuddled commander of confusion, delusion, and dementia, he swung America's doors wide open and shouted, "Come on in. Grandpa doesn't mind. There's plenty for everybody." Yet he didn't ask the rest of the family if it was okay. Since 2021, there have been roughly 12 million, and it's probably more than that. That is a very low and conservative estimate. 12 million unvetted illegal aliens have entered the United States. Y'all, that's more people than the population of Ohio. They are in our interior. We have no idea where many of them are, who they are, why they are here outside of the asylum claims that they claim to be seeking. So now the federal government is left. They are playing cleanup crew. ICE and Border Patrol agents are doing what the Biden administration refused to do. They have to find and then remove all of the individuals who have no legal right to be here. Is it messy? Yes. Oh, it's gonna be messy. Is it blunt surgery? Absolutely. It takes a real man, a real leader to make this decision despite the opposition and say, this is what must be done. When a patient is bleeding out from a self-inflicted wound, you don't criticize the surgeon for cutting deep. You thank him for saving the body. And so this chaos didn't come from the right. Let's be clear. This came from the same people who defunded the police, who abolished bail, and now they think that enforcing immigration law is a hate crime. How have we allowed these people to warp our thinking to even think such a thing? The left built this mess, and now Trump's just cleaning it up. So in recent days, Chicago has become ground zero for what economist Milton Friedman had warned us about decades ago. Milton Friedman said that you cannot have open borders and a welfare state at the same time. You got to pick a struggle, okay? The two philosophies cannot coexist. This was an economist. That's the money people, the numbers guy making this statement, not some partisan hack. He said those two philosophies cannot coexist because on one side, you've got the conservative assertion that sovereignty demands limits. Limits on how many people you let in, limits on how much the state can give, limits on what taxpayers must endure. But then on the other side, you've got the delusional utopianism of the left. This worldview, bankrupt as it is, where borders don't matter. Just let everybody in because we kumbaya. We love everybody, right? It's the mindset that citizenship doesn't matter. And government, we're just a giant piggy bank for anyone who can sneak in. This is why the government is shut down as we speak, because they want to fund all kinds of foolishness that have nothing to do with running the government because they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the purpose and role of government. Leftists believe that the government is God and that they are supposed to be the provider for everyone, providing everything. But that is not the role of government. Here is the harsh truth. We are 37, not thousand, not million, $37 trillion in debt. Y'all, that's a lot of money to be in the hole. Our cities are collapsing. Our schools are overwhelmed. We have infrastructure problems that need attention while they're worried about circumcisions in some third world country that nobody can pronounce the name of it. Okay? Our hospitals are crumbling. Our healthcare system is overburdened. And it's a problem because we're trying to provide healthcare for illegals who have not paid in to the system. And yet, Democrats keep pretending that generosity is a substitute for governance. These people are brain dead and stupid. That is not compassion. That is madness wrapped in moral pretense. And so now, y'all know I got to bring him up. We got to enter Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, old chubby back. This is the man who treats his state like a personal fiefdom. I told y'all, Democrat voters are the electoral serfs of the Democrat Party. And they treat black people like just the lowest of the low. This man, he is furious that President Trump plans to deploy hundreds of National Guard personnel to restore order and protect federal agents. And he claims, wait for it, that this is overreach. It's authoritarian overreach. I'm like, oh, really, JB? It's funny. It's funny how I didn't hear you screaming authoritarian overreach when Biden sent troops to defend foreign borders in Ukraine and Israel. You was mighty silent about overreach on that issue. But when Trump defends our border and our nation's sovereignty, suddenly it is tyranny. Please. I was about to say Negro, please, but he's not Negro, so that won't apply. Spare us, though, the selective outrage. Nobody buys it. Here's the reality. Oh, freak nasty Pritzker, his resistance is not about law. It's about the power grab. Blue state governors, they want to maintain their sanctuary city status because they need the votes. It buys them votes, you guys. And those votes get them federal subsidies and cheap labor. They are exploitative if we've ever seen it. They're Democrats. Remember, the party of oppression, secession, and depression. That is them. They'd rather play politics with illegal immigrants than to protect American citizens because they don't care and give a darn about actual Americans. But Trump, on the other hand, y'all, Trump is doing what every serious leader must do. He has to enforce the law. He must restore order, and it is his duty, obligation, and responsibility to defend our nation's sovereignty. Full stop. And so, as you guys know over here on Unshakable with April Chapman, the Word of God is our final authority, and we use the Word of God to ground our positions and our worldview. So what is the biblical view of this? I can't tell you how many times I have quoted Romans 13, but it's true. Let every person be subject to governing authorities. Why? For there's no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed. Law enforcement serves a purpose. However, that pendulum can swing the other way. So in this context, let me explain how the proper use of Romans 13 should apply. Law enforcement, when acting justly, they are a minister of God's order. Now, we clearly saw that the Biden administration wasn't that. Yes, we were called to submit, but they were acting unjustly. It doesn't mean that these agents are perfect, but it does mean that their duty has some sort of sacredness to it. And so our duty as believers, Christians must reject this progressive narrative that demonizes lawful authority. If you find yourself on the side of the aisle that is demonizing the fact that these people broke the law and they are here unlawfully, and you're mad that they have to be deported Because somewhere in your warped mind, you're like, oh, but they putting babies and separating families. And it's like you're missing the forest through the trees. You're not understanding and you're not using biblical wisdom to parse these things out properly. When you undermine those who keep order, you're inviting the chaos. And chaos is the enemy of peace. And so make no mistake about it. This war on ICE and border patrol and the police, it is not just political. This is a spiritual battle because Satan thrives in disorder. He wants our cities to be chaotic and disruptive and havens of crime and chaos. He loves the confusion and the rebellion and the violence. That's how you know it's from the devil. So if you're living in a city and your leadership sees all of that happening and they do nothing about it, that should tell you right then and there, these people are of Satan. They're lying in my face, trying to make me think that there's nothing to see here. There's no problem. There's no crime. And you're like, no, but we are living in the crime, and they're acting like it doesn't happen and want to gaslight me into thinking that there's no problem. Those individuals are tools of Satan because they want the continuation of the chaos to ensue. And so when you see mobs blocking federal agents, all you need to know is that is not righteousness. That is rebellion masquerading as virtue, and you've been deceived. And so let me say this as plainly as I can. President Trump, his job is to continue what he's doing and to do it unapologetically. He must restore the rule of law. Even if it offends the feelings of the lawless, he must secure the border. Even if it sends the left into hysterics, they're going to be okay. They can't win on any other policies, so they're just going to crash out, and we must let them. Because Trump has to defend the men and women on the front lines who are risking their lives so that America remains a nation, not just a piece of land with a flag. We're a nation because of our borders. The alternative is unthinkable. A nation without borders? That's globalism. That's crazy. A nation without borders is not a nation. A law ignored is a law erased. And a people who no longer believe in order, they will soon live under anarchy. And I don't think any of us are prepared for that. So to all the critics who are clutching their pearls about the brutality of immigration enforcement, I'm going to leave you with this. If you don't like the sound of federal agents knocking on doors in your city, maybe you should have voted for the president who would have kept them out of there in the first place. Remember, these illegals got into your community because Democrats put them there. They didn't send them, right, to the Ozarks and Martha's Vineyard. You saw what happened when they tried to put them in Martha's Vineyard. All of a sudden, we don't have the capacity, and we're not able. You don't have the capacity. Well, neither do we. You see how they dump them in your communities, inviting crime, displacing residents, taking your resources and giving it to people who have not earned it. And now you want to cry and say that the law enforcement is the problem. I'll be done. Just the gratitude, or should I say the lack thereof, is incredible. But I am curious to know from you guys, what do you guys think? Do you think Trump should just continue full speed ahead or leave Chicago to his own devices? Just let it burn all up. I don't know. But he can't do that. He may have to save Chicago from itself despite its leadership wanting it to stay in the dumps and law and lack of law and order and just infested with crime. But my question to you is, if this episode challenged your thinking or gave you a better understanding of what's really happening at the border and in these sanctuary cities, I want you to make sure that you hit the like button. Okay, it's important. Share this episode with a friend. Subscribe for more unshakable commentary every single week. Join me on Patreon. Don't forget to visit the Standard Home and Living Lifestyle Store. And remember, law without morality is tyranny, but morality without law is chaos. You need to choose wisely. So until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.